Well, I didn't think we were going to talk about it. I think we did half of a podcast on Licorice Pizza about a month or so after it was released. And yeah, I mean, if there was ever a movie to kind of do a deep dive on in this moment, it would be One Battle After Another. I just didn't really like it. And it had something to do with any kind of ideological shit. I mean, I know there are a lot of people on the right who hate the movie. And I guess that's kind of fair because I think the very liberal entertainment press, I'm not painting them black or anything with that, it's just a fact, have severely overrated it. And it's kind of shocking to see this kind of these kind of accolades for, I'm sorry, just a not very good movie because of its political ideology. And it's so obviously what they're responding to, and why it's considered a masterpiece, the greatest film of the decade, the greatest film ever made, because it really aligns with this kind of leftist sensibility. I have a feeling that after this week, whenever it drops off the box office charts, it is going to be seen as a kind of musty relic of the post-Kamala Harris era of, that thing that everyone gathers around and pretends is so fantastic and so great when it really isn't, just to make a point. And that's unfortunate, but that's where we are now. And you can just see it in between the lines of so many of the reviews. I remember reading Mandola Dargis's review in the New York Times, and the last paragraph is like, I don't know what to make of this movie. Is it this? Is it that? And then she said, regardless, this is an important American movie about where we are now. No, it is not. It has really not read the room. It has not read the room at all about what's going on in America. And it's slightly embarrassing. I'm a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I think there are three masterpieces, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, and his greatest film, There Will Be Blood, which might be the best movie of the 21st century. And I'm not saying that with any kind of hyperbole. He's a great director. And as a great director, he's made some movies that I have not responded to at all. The Master is one of those, and Punch Drunk Love. And he's made some mid-tier movies. Inherent Vice, after seeing it twice, I am convinced it is a mid-tier Paul Anderson movie. And I think that this is, One Battle After Another, is lower mid-tier Paul Thomas Anderson. It really is shocking to go in and see this movie by a director you love and not really listening to all the left-wing stuff, the right-wing stuff about this movie, and just wanting to see it as a film, and just being surprised by how naive it is and kind of how smug it is too. Paul Thomas Anderson has really never been explicitly political, though you could point to the anti-capitalist narrative of There Will Be Blood, but that's like a character study. This has a message about where we are in America, and it's just all over the place. I think part of the problem is he took, very loosely, he took the characters and some of the situations from Thomas Pynchon's Vineland, Thomas Pynchon's worst novel, by the way, and instead of setting it in Reagan's 80s, about a bunch of 60s radicals who are kind of trying to find their way, he's now pulled it into the contemporary world. So it's Antifa, basically it's Antifa. And I think to a degree that some of my friends on the right, my conservative friends, have misread the movie in a way as much as left-wing and liberal people have misread it. It's really interesting to see people divided over a movie that certainly has some very funny and pointed things to say about the left in terms of Leonardo DiCaprio's character. But overall, yeah, there's a liberal mustiness to this movie that already feels very dated by October 2025. Very dated. And it just doesn't read the room. It reads a tiny corner of the room, but it does not read what is going on in America. It thinks something else is going on. And I have really not seen as unappealing a performance as Sean Penn as the racist Colonel Lockjaw or whatever he is. You really have to be a committed, nutty liberal to undermine this character and play it as baldly as Sean Penn does. I just couldn't believe that Anderson let him and that Sean Penn decided to go this route. If everything in the movie had been played realistically, let's say, the movie could have worked. But it is a kind of quote-unquote zany, R-rated, violent at times, political movie that is also a Pynchon-esque romp, and it never gels together. It just never came together for me. And I went in there not listening to anybody, big fan of PTAs, and I just sat there. I felt nothing for 2 hours and 45 minutes. Nothing. The only thing that I did like, there's a sequence in the middle of the movie where Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm not going to go into the plot, has got to find where his daughter is located. And so he calls the anarchist hotline. And he has to be, because he's in hiding, he has to answer a bunch of questions in order to prove that he is Bob Ferguson, or whatever his character's name is. And he has been, since On the Lam for the last 16 years, he's forgotten the answers. There's a couple he knows, but there's one he doesn't know, which is, I think, what time is it? And he has to answer that in order to move the conversation forward. And Leo, because he's been so drunk and high the last 16 years, cannot remember some of it. And it is genuinely hilarious. Leo is very, very funny in these scenes, and you get a glimpse of the great comic actor he can be, as he proved in The Wolf of Wall Street. And I laughed at that. But the whole thing about the white supremacist, the rich white supremacist, I can't even believe PTA wrote these scenes, let alone directed them so seriously, even though they are also satiric in tone. The whole movie is just so bewildering that I came out of it depressed and thinking, this is what our entertainment press is calling the greatest film ever made. Also, I read the reviews and I was promised a lot of stuff that I was looking forward to. Reviews were saying this is the best car chase in movies since The French Connection. There is no car chase. There are cars kind of following each other on a highway in the middle of the desert, and then they kind of pass each other, and then they kind of like follow each other, and it's not a car chase. And then the ending's just so dumb. I mean, I don't know. The whole thing was depressing. And what's even more depressing is the fact that so many people blindly love it. And because it's Paul Thomas Anderson, who is a critic's darling, it's too much for them. They just love it so much. And it's not a smart movie. He's talented. PTA is very talented, but I just don't know how smart he is about this. And I think, again, if this was played as a realistic action movie, it had more than a fighting chance. A lot of it's beautifully shot. There's no denying that. But I just found the movie completely bewildering and depressing. And I kind of like came out of it pissed that I had not waited for it to stream. Someone warned me. I had a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle, Adam, who did not like the movie. We'll see how it does. I know everyone's talking about it cost $200 million to make. It'll never, and this is not a commercial film. Let me just put it that way. It is an art house attempt at a commercial film. And there's got to be some way that they pre-sold stuff. I don't think anyone making this movie is dumb enough not to have had some pre-sales and made some money back before the release. So I don't know. But I wish I had put my thoughts together more coherently, but off the top of my head, that is how I felt about One Battle After Another. I cannot imagine ever watching it again. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. I have zero interest, even less so than I did with Licorice Pizza, which is also, to me, mid-PTA. The only movie in the latter part of his career that I thought really worked and got closest to those three great movies he made was Phantom Thread. Which I also wonder how I'd feel on a second viewing. But I have seen Magnolia, I have seen Boogie Nights, And There Will Be Blood numerous times, and each time I watch those movies, they get better and better and better. This is just kind of, I guess, a big swing, but it just absolutely doesn't work. Don't believe the hype.